Think about it this way. If you walked around all day carrying, I don't know, a literal 50-pound canvas backpack filled to the brim with rocks, everyone you encountered would understand exactly why you were so exhausted.
Oh, absolutely. They'd see it right away.
Right, they'd see the heavy material, they'd watch the straps digging into your shoulders, and they'd look at you, see you sweating and struggling, and say, well, of course you're tired, put that down.
Yeah, because the physical burden is entirely visible. I mean, it occupies space in the real world. It has a measurable mass.
Exactly.
And it makes immediate logical sense to everyone around you that it's just draining your energy.
But consider what happens when the weight you're carrying is completely invisible.
Hmm.
What if you're waking up every single morning and before you've even poured your very first cup of tea, you are mentally strapping on this massive invisible burden of self-evaluation?
Wow, yeah, that morning routine.
Right. You are auditing your physical form before you even start your day.
And that is the precise type of exhaustion we're analyzing today. It has absolutely nothing to do with physical exertion.
Right. It's not the gym.
No, not at all.
Hmm.
It's not the tiredness from a long week at the office or running a marathon. It's this relentless, taxing background hum of body image pressure, which is just consuming your cognitive bandwidth hour after hour.
Well, welcome to today's deep dive. We are so thrilled to have you here with us. Our mission today is exploring a deeply insightful digital document from SolveHera, and it's titled The Body Image Reset Guide.
It's such a fantastic resource.
It really is. And right out of the gate, I want to establish a very clear boundary with you about what this material is and perhaps more importantly, what it isn't.
Setting that boundary is essential, yeah, because we are not diving into some mandate to suddenly magically love yourself more.
Oh, thank goodness.
Right. This
Yeah.
is not another superficial self-help manual demanding an overnight transformation into, unwavering toxic body positivity, where you just force a smile and pretend you never have a bad day.
Nobody needs more of that. This deep dive is for you if you are someone who intellectually knows, without a shadow of a doubt, that you are so much more than your appearance. You know it in your bones.
Exactly. You value your mind, your humor, your integrity.
Yes. But, you still feel that heavy, familiar exhaustion settle right into your chest when you look in a mirror, or when you scroll through your feed, or when you catch yourself holding your breath and adjusting your posture the second you walk into a crowded room.
Which happens to so many of us.
All the time. So the entire goal today is to realize that true clarity comes from understanding the mechanics of what is actually happening in your brain and our culture,
Yeah.
not from forcing yourself to manufacture feelings of self-love. Okay, let's unpack this. We have to examine the root causes of this invisible pressure because it's an engineered architecture, not a personal failing.
That's a vital distinction. You are dealing with a totally rational response to an overwhelming cultural stimulus. The exhaustion you feel is the result of living in a body that you feel you constantly have to evaluate, manage, or apologize for.
Man, apologizing for your own body.
Right. It's the fatigue of an endless public relations campaign for your own physical form.
And the craziest paradox here, the thing that makes so many people feel incredibly isolated and, frankly, a bit ashamed, is that this pressure often coexists with a wildly successful, highly competent life.
Oh, 100%.
Like, you can be crushing it professionally, making complex decisions all day. You have deep, loving relationships. You're crystal clear in your morals. And yet, you still spend a completely disproportionate amount of your daily mental energy agonizing over the shape of your jawline or the size of your stomach.
And that paradox creates a secondary layer of intense guilt. Intelligent people think, I'm smart, I'm educated, I have real problems to solve in the world. Why on earth do I care so much about this?
Yes, the guilt of caring it all.
Exactly, but those two realities do not cancel each other out. Caring deeply about your physical appearance is not a sign of superficiality or weakness. It's the mark of a culture that asks a great deal of women's bodies. It weaves physical acceptability into the very fabric of social survival. This is what the guide calls the cultural current.
And that current is strong. Industries literally construct and then profit from the gap between how you feel about yourself right now and some unreachable ideal.
Massive, massive industries.
Huge. And the machinery driving that current has become incredibly sophisticated. I mean, we aren't just talking about the obvious glossy magazine spreads from 20 years ago where you knew you were looking at a supermodel.
Right, the airbrushing was obvious then.
Exactly. The pressure hides in plain sight now. It's baked into seamless, algorithm-driven before and after photos on social media. It wraps highly restrictive behaviors and subtle body shaming in the really soothing vocabulary of wellness and self-care.
And the aesthetic demands shift with every single generation. What is considered the ideal shape completely morphs every decade. But the underlying structure remains identical. Your body is presented to you as a permanent project.
Always a project.
Always. And you are entirely responsible for optimizing its outcome. When that relentless cultural current collides with your early childhood experiences, it forms what they call the psychological layer. The way we relate to our physical selves is shaped incredibly early on, often before we even have the cognitive defense mechanisms to reject it.
Those early inputs are so sticky, aren't they?
Incredibly sticky.
It could be like a careless offhand remark from an aunt when you were 7 years old, or it could just be absorbing a parent's own quiet, persistent anxiety about their body over years of silent observation.
Yes, children pick up on everything.
They really do.
Mm.
And those inputs crystallize into an internal template for how you understand your physical self. It creates a body schema. And thinking about how this schema actually operates on a daily basis, honestly, it's exactly like having a highly biased search engine algorithm permanently installed in your brain.
Oh, that's a brilliant way to put it.
Right. Once that negative core belief about your body's programmed in, the algorithm only shows you the search results that confirm your negative beliefs. It highlights the specific critical comments. It draws your eye immediately to the worst possible angle in the mirror.
It's relentless.
It is. And it automatically filters out or completely blocks any positive contradictions. It just actively hides the evidence that you're perfectly fine.
Because the schema has an agenda. It's not a neutral observer of reality. Its primary function is to prove itself right, to maintain the internal logic of your worldview, even if that worldview causes you immense distress.
It's wild that our brains do that to us.
It is. It will just cherry pick the data from your environment to validate the insecurity.
But wait, if this comparison architecture is so demonstrably unfair, and if we intellectually know the cultural current is trying to sell us serums and diets, and we know our brain's algorithm is actively biased against us, why do incredibly competent, highly intelligent people still fall into the trap every single day?
It's the ultimate question.
Right. Why can't we just use our massive prefrontal cortices to outthink it?
What's fascinating here is that we're not just fighting a bad habit. We are fighting millions of years of deeply entrenched evolutionary wiring.
Millions of years.
Literally, human beings are biologically mandated to compare themselves to others. Historically, in tribal structures, understanding exactly where you stood relative to the group, your social rank, your acceptability was a matter of life and death.
So it's literally survival.
Exactly. If you were rejected by the village, you did not survive the winter. You couldn't just casually outthink that instinct because that constant social auditing kept your ancestors alive.
And we took that ancient, vital survival instinct and plugged it straight into a smartphone.
We scaled it to a staggering, unnatural degree. You are no longer comparing yourself to the 50 people in your immediate nomadic tribe where there's a natural bell curve of human variation.
Right, just normal people.
Yeah. Instead, you are comparing yourself to thousands of carefully curated, professionally lit, digitally altered images of the top 0.1% of the population. And that is delivered to your brain every single day.
It's just an impossible standard.
And the human brain does not process that massive volume of curated imagery as neutral fictional entertainment. It accumulates it as social data. The exposure layers upon itself, tricking your nervous system into believing this artificial standard is the new normal tribe. This raises an important question. How can we ever expect to feel secure when we're playing a game where the deck is mathematically stacked against our unfiltered reality?
You just can't win.
You can't. You are forced to compare your internal, unlit, fluctuating 2,047 lived experience of a human body to someone else's external, highly selected, heavily edited highlight reel. The comparison was never designed to be fair. It's designed to keep you scrolling.
And that evolutionary mismatch, colliding with our biased internal algorithm, doesn't just stay in the realm of abstract psychology. It dictates the actual granular reality of our Tuesday afternoons. It shapes our minute-to-minute lived experience, creating a very specific emotional fingerprint.
It absolutely does. It manifests as a rigid pattern of thoughts, behaviors, and emotional responses that operate almost entirely on autopilot.
Just constantly running in the background.
Exactly. If we trace the thoughts first, it's the running background commentary. It's that near automatic, highly critical appraisal of your body the moment your feet hit the floor in the morning.
The morning scan.
Yes, it's the intrusive thoughts that arrive completely uninvited while you're just trying to focus on a spreadsheet, watch a movie, or walk down the street holding a coffee.
And those thoughts always seem to attach a strict condition of worth to your physical appearance. They formulate these silent contracts in your head, like, when I finally lose those 10 pounds, then I will be able to relax. Or I would feel confident enough to speak up in this meeting if my face looked different.
Those conditional statements are so damaging.
They really are.
Mhm.
It creates a hostile mental environment where you are constantly zooming in on specific, isolated parts of your body, wildly exaggerating their size or visibility relative to everything else in the room.
And that hostile mental environment inevitably leaks out into physical behaviors. It cannot be contained just to thought. The most common manifestation is checking behaviors.
It's checking, right?
Yeah, repeatedly looking in mirrors, catching your reflection in storefront windows, pinching skin, obsessively measuring, or even scrolling back through old photos on your phone to compare your current self to a past version.
I think we've all done that photo scrolling thing.
Definitely. And the inverse of that is avoidance behavior. Declining social invitations, physically hiding from cameras, or curating a wardrobe specifically designed to camouflage rather than express your personality.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. Out of all the behaviors that stem from this pressure, the one that feels the absolute most tragic is the concept of postponing life.
Oh, yes, the postponement.
Postponing relationships, delaying career opportunities, putting off vacations, or just refusing to be fully present in joyful experiences. All until your body meets a specific, arbitrary aesthetic metric. It's exactly like having this incredibly beautiful, expensive set of good china that you keep locked away in a dark glass cabinet forever.
Waiting for the right moment.
Exactly. You are waiting for some perfectly staged, completely imaginary dinner party that is never actually going to happen. And while you wait, you force yourself to eat off flimsy paper plates every single day of your actual life. You are literally putting your existence on hold for a hypothetical physical prerequisite.
It is a devastating loss of lived experience. You are sacrificing the only life you have for a future version of yourself that is always moving further away.
It's heartbreaking.
It is. And that chronic postponement directly feeds the emotional distress. This pressure has a distinct emotional fingerprint. It's the sudden, precipitous drop in mood after seeing a certain image online. A drop so habitual you might not even realize what triggered it.
You just suddenly feel awful.
Right. It's a quiet, persistent, low-grade shame. Not necessarily dramatic, weeping self-hatred, but just this heavy, lingering sense of not being quite acceptable as you are.
And the ultimate result of all that monitoring and shame is a profound disconnection from the physical body itself. You lose touch with your actual biological signals. You stop recognizing genuine hunger. You ignore your need for deep rest, and you completely overlook your physical strength and resilience. Because 100% of your cognitive bandwidth has been hijacked by managing your exterior appearance.
A total hijack.
But let's pause and look at the actual mechanics of the checking behaviors, specifically the mirror checking. Isn't looking in the mirror just a primal biological attempt to feel in control of our environment, like a threat assessment? We feel anxious, so we check the mirror to assess the situation. But how does that checking actually pour gasoline on the anxiety instead of soothing it?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, we have to analyze what the mind is actually seeking when it compulsorily checks a reflection. Each mirror check is fundamentally a desperate question being asked by your nervous system.
A question.
Yes. You are looking at the glass and asking, am I acceptable? Am I safe in my social group? Am I enough? But a physical body viewed in a mirror can never, ever provide the emotional answer the mind is truly searching for.
Oh, wow.
You are looking in a purely physical place for deep psychological reassurance. Because the reflection cannot answer the emotional question, the brain registers a failure, the anxiety loops, and the urge to check again intensifies.
Because a mirror can only reflect photons of light. It literally lacks the physical capability to reflect your worth, your safety, or your value.
The tool is completely mismatched to the job. Recognizing that mismatch is the first step in calculating the true toll this takes. Consider the staggering cost of a single difficult body image day.
It's exhausting just thinking about it.
When you add up the hours lost to the mirror, the mental energy burned analyzing angles, the social events skipped out of discomfort, and the sheer lack of presence with your loved ones, the cost in time, energy, and joy is astronomical.
When you really sit down and calculate that cost, it demands a massive pivot. We cannot simply keep analyzing the trap we are in. We have to figure out how to step out of it. But the danger here is turning that exit strategy into just another grueling self-improvement project, where you now feel pressure to perfectly execute your own body acceptance.
And we must avoid replacing one high-pressure project with another. The solution lies in a completely different orientation, which SolveHera outlines beautifully as a calm framework for
I
change.
love that word, calm.
It explicitly rejects the idea of a strict 10-step measurable program. There is no urgency, there is no pass or fail. It is a gentle, gradual reorientation of your attention.
And the very first principle of this calm framework is to separate observation from judgment. This is about catching the narrative before it completely hijacks your nervous system.
Catching it is key.
Let's say you sit down and you feel a physical sensation around your waist. Like, my stomach feels full and my waistband is pressing into my skin. That is a neutral observation. It's just raw biological sensory data.
Just a fact.
Right. But the immediate thought, my stomach is too big, I have ruined my progress, I look terrible, is a judgment. It's a heavy, fictional story layered violently on top of a neutral sensation.
The power lies in creating a micropause between the sensation and the story. You do not have to immediately love the sensation, but by identifying the judgment as a separate, optional narrative, you engage your prefrontal cortex. You pull yourself out of the emotional spiral of the amygdala.
That makes so much sense.
The framework also emphasizes reducing the input, which treats your attention as your most valuable resource. If engaging with certain content consistently triggers that negative schema, ruthlessly curating your environment by muting or unfollowing is not a sign of weakness. It's an act of high-level intelligence and self-protection.
Following that is the principle of interrupting the comparison loop. When you find your brain spinning up that familiar algorithm thinking, oh, she looks so effortless, I should look more like that, you interrupt the circuit by asking a completely different question. What do I actually need right now in this exact moment?
Such a powerful question.
Because 9 times out of 10, the sudden fixation on your body is just a deflection. You don't actually need a different body. You need a glass of water or a nap or a hug, or you are just feeling incredibly lonely and anxious about a work deadline.
The body just becomes a convenient scapegoat for any generalized discomfort. By asking what you actually need, you address the root cause rather than punishing the physical form. That shift in focus leads directly to the practice of functional appreciation.
Which I think is my favorite part of all of this.
It's huge. For many people, the modern demand for body positivity, the insistence that you must fiercely love every single perceived flaw, feels incredibly alienating and, frankly, impossible.
Total impossible on some days.
Body neutrality offers a much more accessible entry point. Functional appreciation means deliberately noticing what your body does rather than obsessing over how it looks. Your legs carry you through the city. Your lungs autonomously draw breath while you sleep. Your immune system fights off pathogens without you ever having to ask.
So what does this all mean for our daily lives? To me, functional appreciation is the most grounding, realistic alternative available. Think of your body like a house.
Oh, I like this.
You do not have to painstakingly convince yourself that you live in a glamorous billion-dollar architectural masterpiece with imported marble floors to deeply, profoundly appreciate the fact that your roof is solid. It's keeping the cold rain out and the foundation is holding steady. You can just be immensely grateful for the reliable shelter.
Yes, beautifully said.
But practically speaking, in the heat of the moment when you are stressed, running late, and harshly judging yourself in the mirror, how hard is it to actually catch that judgment and strip it back down to a neutral observation? It sounds elegantly simple in theory, but in practice, it feels like trying to stop a freight train.
It is incredibly difficult, and validating that difficulty is crucial. The neural grooves of self-criticism have been dug deeply over decades. The goal is not immediate, flawless execution.
Thank goodness.
Right. The goal is simply to notice. Just saying to yourself, that thought is a judgment, not a fact, that creates a vital millimeter of psychological distance. You are not required to force yourself to love what you see in the mirror. You just have to gently delay the habitual urge to fix it or punish it.
Just a delay.
Yes. A highly effective technique is setting a soft boundary with checking. When the overwhelming urge to scrutinize a photo or intensely check the mirror hits, you do not forbid yourself from doing it. You simply delay it by 2 minutes.
2 minutes, that's doable.
Exactly. You take a slow breath, you place a hand on your chest, you let the absolute peak of the anxiety wave pass. Just loosening the rigidity of that automatic pattern begins to dismantle the architecture.
You're introducing friction to the automatic circuit, and all of these gentle interruptions build toward the ultimate core shift in perspective. Let your body be a place, not a project.
A profound shift.
We've been conditioned from birth to view our physical bodies as problems to be solved, endless renovation projects to be optimized, managed, and eventually corrected into acceptability. The invitation here is to just let the body be the place where you live, not a finished place, not a flawless place, just the sturdy, reliable location where your actual life, your real connections, and your tangible experiences unfold today.
That perspective shift is the absolute crux of dismantling the pressure. There's a quote from the guide that perfectly encapsulates this. Your body, the exact, specific, unedited one you inhabit right this second, the one that has gotten you out of bed every single morning and carried you through every heartbreak and illness you have ever survived, has been doing its quiet, faithful work without your approval.
Wow.
It has never once waited for you to accept it or love it before continuing its complex biological mission to keep you alive and moving through the world.
Quiet, faithful work without your approval. That completely inverts the narrative. It makes you realize how relentlessly your physical body has been fighting for you, pumping blood and healing wounds, even while your mind has spent decades fighting a bitter psychological war against it.
The ultimate takeaway here is that resolving the exhaustion of body image pressure is not about achieving some dramatic, cinematic transformation where you wake up one morning and experience uninterrupted total peace with your appearance.
Because that's a myth.
That expectation is a trap. Resolution is simply a gradual, steady reduction in the amount of energy you spend at war with yourself. It's a slow, methodical reclaiming of the precious cognitive attention that this cultural pressure has borrowed from you for years.
You are already fully equipped and entirely enough for this exact moment. Clarity comes from understanding the systems acting upon you, not from aggressively forcing a change in your feelings. You do not need to fix anything about your physical form today.
Simply noticing the invisible weight, naming the cultural currents, acknowledging the bias schema, and recognizing the unfair comparison architecture is the beginning of the change. Awareness is the mechanism of release.
As we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over. Something to carry with you as you close this audio and walk back into your routine. I want you to truly think about the sheer volume of mental energy, the literal thousands of hours you have spent auditing your physical form over the last decade.
So many hours.
All those anxious morning mirror checks, all the postponed dinner parties, all the background hum of algorithmic comparison. If all of that borrowed, wasted energy was suddenly handed back to you today, right now, in a single massive lump sum, what entirely different, beautiful world could you build with that reclaimed focus? Because it is time to put down the invisible backpack. You have carried it long enough.